Namaskar friends. Today is the second oration of our second phase of the Lifeline Orations program. The theme continues to be the same, sentiment. In the first oration, I had told you three types of sentiments. One is sentiment of one for oneself. Secondly, sentiment of one for others who live around one, and sentiment for other things. This is sentiment for people living around one also includes people who are linked to us by blood, father, mother, sister, etc. I had also told you that sometimes sentiment for one person is replaced by sentiment for another, who comes later into the scene. In this oration, you will hear when the replaced person's sentiment hurts the sentiment for the latter. Very interesting story, friends. About 40 years ago, an old man retiring from service came to settle in his native village. In his paternal property, he constructed a one-story building and lived with his wife. Because of his culture, refinement, and he was also a learned person, he became a fond man in the locality. Because they were isolated, they had no children, everybody who came to them thought he or she was his child. They were fondly called Jibon Dadu and Mamta Dadi. After 1 year of staying there, a male child was born to the front door neighbor of this old couple. To his naming ceremony, they were invited. Mr. Jibondadu imposed the name which he had selected. The name was Akash, and he directed that he should be called in his nickname AK. Okay. After the boy was 3, he often came to the house of Mr. Jibondadu and became their one-eyed boy. When the boy was 4, he was to go to school, to read in a primary school. By the time Jibondadu had set up a primary school in the village, only to see that his blue-eyed boy never departs from him much. And it came to so much that each promotion of the boy saw promotion of the school to the next higher grade. The village school became a middle English school. After the boy was 12 plus, he went to the high school. Jibondadu arranged a bicycle for him and he daily commuted from school. After he became 15 plus, 16, he passed the 10 plus examination, high school examination, and he was to go to a college. A good college was the college in the district headquarters, 60-70 kilometers from their village. So Dadu and Dadi must have to bear with the separation of their blue-eyed boy. And the boy one day took leave and their blessing. Friends, during these 12 years, Jibondadu made the boy thoroughly acquainted with elementary things of every sort of thing what a boy or a young man should know. He wanted to make him a living encyclopedia. The boy was their soul, and they were the boy's soul. People thought this Mr. A.K. was a replica of the old Jiban Dadu. Okay, when the boy read in the college and lived in the hostel, every month he came to his village, stayed some 2 to 3 days and then went back. He was also very fond of getting his hair cut in the saloon of their village. The plus 2 board exam was 1 month ahead. Jiban Dadu instructed him not to come to the village until the examinations were over. He asked him if needed, he was to do some haircut in some nearby saloon. One Sunday, after completing his study around 11, he went for a haircut. While returning, he selected a shortcut route. That was a by-lane. It was 12 o'clock. There was no much traffic. When he looked ahead, he saw that a girl was walking. She was visibly crying, wiping her tears off and on, and flipping some drops of tears to outside. He quickened his steps and walked alongside her, said, "Hey, why are you crying?" The girl just did not pay any heed to him. He again said, "I am asking you something, why don't you say?" She said, by turning her face towards the boy, "Who are you? Get lost." He said, "No, I see that you are crying, so I must know why so." She said, are you a mad person or what? Why don't you leave me alone and go your way?" This time he came to her front and said, "Upon God, please say why you are crying." Stretched the hands to both sides to obstruct her way. She stood framed and said, "Since you have held God's name, I am telling you. My stepmother wants me to earn money for the family, even by selling my body, because there is no earning member in the family." The boy burst laughing, said, "Ha ha ha, you are bluffing. Have you other no person to bluff and you bluffing me? How can a person sell his body?" The girl stood still and looked at him, said to herself, "Such a grown-up boy, and he is still innocent in the ways of the world." She said, "If you are talking so much, please arrange a work for me. Let me earn something and just eat and drink and rest. Even I am ready to clean utensils in someone's house to work as a maid." And this thing immediately took Mr. A.K. down the memory lane. Months before his departure to the college, every night he had, after retiring to bed, Mamtadaji bewailing. She had pain in her waist, in her hands, in her body, while cleaning utensils, and wishing that a girl were brought to their family and work as a maid. She was saying, we would marry the girl to a boy, he would be agreeing to stay here with us as our son-in-law. Jiban Dadu would be sympathetic and would be saying, where from anyone will bring a girl in this countryside? One day the situation was so pitiable, Mr. A.K. got up from the bed and came to the old couple saying, "I will arrange one day a girl for you." He was thought of as a braggart, tall talker, and just ignored. This thing occurred to the mind of the young man. He said, "Will you go to our village to work as a maid in the house where I have grown up?" Old couple, they have no other issue, nothing. They have money enough. They will marry you to a boy. She said, "Now and on, from here, quick, lest my mom should set a trail, and if he tracks me, he will drag me home back." They immediately came to the bus stand, availed the fast bus, and came towards their area. All through the journey, Mr. Ek was simply glowing in his memory and visualizing the joy in the faces of the old couple. He was so much absorbed in such joy. Even she did not ask the girl what her name was. He had shared his promise to the old couple to his car mates in the village. And he was also imagining how they would offer him oblation when they would see him with the girl. With such imaginings, they reached their village when it was almost dark. The village road, by the side of the village road, the boys were still playing cards. Some 4 were playing and some 8 to 10 were watching by sitting around them. Mr. Eke and the girl just passed by them, but none of them even raised his head to look at them. Mr. Akash felt slighted. His imagining was totally reversed. He could not adjust himself to that. After some 8 to 10 steps, someone cleared his throat. He looked back. There was no change in any face. Everybody's face was down. Then he reconciled to himself, saying, perhaps someone must be genuinely clearing his throat. Again, some 8 to 10 steps he had gone. Meow. The boy was terribly angry. He was now sure that someone was jeering at him and others were conniving at such jeering. He said, "All right, let me leave the girl with the old couple and coming back to settle score with you." They went. They were now nearing their house. From a distance, Mr. Eke could mark that his own parents were sitting on the veranda of their house. But the moment their eyes fell on him, they immediately got up and went into the house and shut the door with a bang. He could not understand the disposition of his own parents, and thought how strange, but he could not express his surprise because the girl might feel bad. These fellows' parents are shutting their doors, and what job he would arrange for me? Then he reconciled to himself. Am I to actually go to my home? I am to go to my place of pilgrimage, he thought, Jivan Dadu's house. However, both entered their house. When they entered the house, Akash saw the old couple were talking something between themselves. But the moment that their eyes fell on them, Dadi suddenly rushed towards the toilet. And Dadu, with a sullen face, without saying anything, just came outside with a slow walk. The young man was totally confused. Anger rushed to his head like anything. At this point, the girl said she badly needed some sleep, after which she would wake up, do any household work as the old woman would say, and then will eat something. Mr. A.K. took her to his own study room and showed him the bed what he was using, and she immediately fell asleep. Then he took a chair, came outside the house, sat just in front of Mr. Jiban Dadu, some 4 to 5 feet distance. He was sure there would be something today. After some 1 hour, Jiban Dadu broke the silence with, "Hey, who is that wench?" This is terribly inferior to the boy. Jiban Dadu was unaware that by that time the boy's sentiment had displaced him and had gone for the girl. This was not love. The boy had understood with what a confidence, with what a trust. She had come all the way to the village, not expressing any doubt, any fear. And Dadu had himself told, trust is really God. How can Dadu know it? Dadu says, who is that wench? He replied, why wench? Why not a girl? Dadu said, oh, our boy has in the meantime understood the difference between a wench and a girl. Arey wah! This made the boy impatient in terrible anger. He said, or what? Would I just roll the gold around my waist and move all life? And why he said this? Where from he had borrowed this? Where from he had heard this? He could not remember later. Jiban Dadu lost patience. He got up and rushed at him saying, what did you say? He raised the finger saying, radio speaks once. He returned him his own words. Radio speaks once. Jiban Dadu says, what? Get out from my house immediately. Here and now. He said, yes, I am leaving your house for good. Then he rushed to the girl, lifted him from bed virtually, then left the house. It was 8 o'clock. Friends, what do you mark here? How close was the relation between the old couple and this boy? Each one the other's soul, I told you. What happened now? Friends, perhaps we misunderstand what is man. Between each one of us, the barrier is illimitable. Perhaps we are each a world of our own. When we say, I am intimately connected to him, he is very close to him, we are in illusion, perhaps. This is what is understood from it. And man has arranged at what time who will stay where, particularly at night. If the boy and the girl came out at 8 o'clock at night in the countryside, what would happen to them? The worst happened. Somehow they entered an opera house where the light went out. And the situation became so dangerous. AK had to flee in secret and reached back his hostel the next evening. But he could not know what had happened to the girl. The worst had also happened to the girl. I should not utter that word. But I will not tell you anything more. This is not a real story, friends. This is a plot I am telling you from a novel. The name of the novel is In the Labyrinth of Love. The author's name I will declare in the next oration. For today, thanking you.